Okay, picture South Korea. For ages, you think air power, you probably think Western jets, right?
Absolutely. U.S. fighters mainly.
But that's changing. Something really significant is happening. They're building their own advanced fighter, the KF-21 Boramae.
It's a huge step. And it matters not just regionally, but for allies like Australia, too. Anyone watching military tech trends.
Definitely. So this isn't just about a new plane. It feels like a statement, doesn't it,
Hmm.
about how the whole aerospace game is shifting.
Exactly. Nations beyond the usual suspects are really stepping up.
So that's what we're diving into today, the KF-21 program. We want to unpack, where it came from, what it can do, and what it really means for countries wanting more independence in the air. We're drawing on the analysis, the KF-21 and domestic aerospace development. Our mission here is pretty clear. Figure out why South Korea did this, the hurdles they cleared, what the KF-21 is actually for, and the ripple effects globally.
Sound good.
Okay, let's get into it. Where did this ambition, this drive for a homegrown fighter even start?
Well, it's really part of a much longer game for South Korea. Like Japan, they've had this underlying goal for a while now to build more of their own military kit.
Right, self-reliance.
Exactly. For decades, even though they had a growing aerospace industry, they were mostly buying aircraft and weapons from the West.
Makes sense. But, they didn't just leap from buying planes to designing a state-of-the-art fighter, did they? Must have been some groundwork laid.
Oh, absolutely not. The T-50 Golden Eagle supersonic trainer was completely crucial. That project started way back in '92 under KAI Korea Aerospace Industries.
The trainer jet, right.
Yeah, but it was more than just a trainer. It was actually designed with light combat roles in mind, too. Building that, getting it operational, that was the real proof of concept. It showed KAI could actually design and build complex aircraft.
Okay, so the T-50 sort of paved the way.
Yeah.
Then came the announcement in 2001 for the KFX project that became the Boramae to replace the old Phantoms and Tigers.
That's right. The F-4s and F-5s were really getting on a bit.
But I seem to recall there was quite a bit of skepticism early on. A lot of people thinking it was too big a jump.
There definitely was. And you can see why, right? Going from a trainer, even an advanced one, to a fighter meant to compete with top international designs. That's a massive undertaking.
Especially for a nation without that long history of fighter design like, say, the U.S. or France.
Exactly. Plus, the early numbers suggested it might actually cost more per plane than just buying something off the shelf. Setting up a whole new production line from scratch, that's a huge upfront cost.
So it sort of stalled for a bit then. What really lit the fire under the project again?
The big shift happened around 2010. Tensions with North Korea flared up significantly. That really focused minds back home, created a new sense of urgency. Suddenly, boosting their own defense capabilities felt much more critical.
The regional security dynamic, that makes sense. And that's when the international partners started getting involved more seriously.
Precisely. Indonesia came on board, committing to fund 20% of the development. That was a major boost.
Significant skin in the game.
Yeah. And there was early interest from others, too, like Turkey, maybe for another 20%. But ultimately, the South Korean government really showed its commitment by agreeing to cover the remaining 60%.
So they were really backing it.
They were. And KAI, with their T-50 success, naturally won the bid to be the main contractor. Crucially, they also partnered with Lockheed Martin. That brought in vital technical support and know-how.
Okay, so the money's there, the partnerships are forming. Now the actual design work. I remember seeing different concepts floating around.
Yeah, there were 3 initial proposals on the table. You had the C-103, which looked quite a bit like the F-35, actually.
A stealthy appearance.
Then the C-203, that was more of a European style. Think delta wing, triangular with canards, those little wings up front for maneuverability.
Like a Rafale or Typhoon kind of vibe.
Sort of, yeah. And then there was the C-503, which was pitched as a lower-cost, single-engine option.
But the Air Force had a favorite, even if it wasn't the cheapest.
They did. They leaned heavily towards the C-103, the twin-engine design. They wanted the redundancy, the performance edge you get with 2 engines, even if it cost more up front.
Prioritizing capability.
Right. So that C-103 concept then went through a lot of refinement, wind tunnel testing, aerodynamic tweaks, the whole engineering process. That led to 4 more variations: C-104, C-105, C-107, and C-109.
Wow, quite an evolution. And eventually they landed on the C-105, which became the KFX.
That's the one they selected to move forward with. But it's interesting, that initial C-105 concept, according to Korean sources anyway, didn't have an internal weapons bay.
Oh, really? That's a key feature for stealth, isn't it? carrying weapons inside.
It is. And apparently it was also the smallest design, and at first was maybe even going to be single engine. But the final KF-21 design we see today clearly took good ideas and improvements from those other concepts and merged them into that basic C-105 framework.
So a very iterative process, building on different ideas. Okay, design locked, funding sorted, partners in place. What were the next big steps? The milestones.
Well, it took nearly 11 years from that initial concept, but the first prototype was finally rolled out, July 12, 2021. That's when it officially got the name KF-21 Boramae, which means hawk.
A big moment. I remember that generating quite a buzz internationally.
It really did. Countries like Poland, Peru, the Philippines, they all showed definite interest.
Yeah.
After the rollout, the focus shifted hard to building and testing more planes.
How many were involved in the test program?
8 more test units in total. 2 were just for ground tests, hammering out systems. Then 2 twin-seaters for flight testing and training development, and 4 more single-seat flight test aircraft.
And the flight tests seemed to move pretty quickly after that.
They did, yeah. First single-seater flew in July 2022. The second one was up by November. Then a really big one in January 2023. The third prototype broke the sound barrier. Supersonic flight achieved.
Nice.
And just a month after that, February 2023, the first two-seater took flight. So yeah, pretty rapid progress through those key flight milestones.
Impressive momentum. So what's the plan now for actual production? When do we see these jets actually entering service?
The current target from KAI is to get the first batch of 40 KF-21s to the South Korean Air Force by 2028.
40 by 2028. And the total number?
The ultimate goal is a full fleet of 120 aircraft by 2032. But, and this is important, those first planes, the initial batch, they'll be what's called Block 1 configuration.
Block 1, meaning limited capabilities initially.
Basically, yes. Block 1 will be focused primarily on air-to-air combat. So initially, it won't be the full multi-role fighter.
Ah, okay. So they're phasing it in, get the air combat part sorted first.
Exactly. There is a planned Block 2 program to follow, and that will integrate the full air-to-ground capabilities.
Any idea why they're doing it that way? Just faster deployment?
That seems the most likely reason. Get a core capability out there quickly while they continue to work on integrating the more complex ground attack systems. It's probably a smart trade-off. Get something operational sooner rather than wait years for absolutely everything to be ready.
Makes sense. Get boots on the ground, or rather jets in the air. Yeah. What about other versions? Any talk of a carrier model?
The designers have said that if South Korea ever decides to get aircraft carriers, developing a carrier-capable version, maybe called the KF-21N, wouldn't take that long. Maybe just a few extra years.
Interesting. And Indonesia, are they still planning to buy some?
As a key partner, yes, they're still looking at potentially buying around 50 KF-21s for their own Air Force, which highlights the export potential too.
Okay, let's talk capabilities then, especially that future Block 2 version. What kind of teeth will this thing have? What weapons?
Well, the full multi-role capability is definitely the end goal. For hitting ground targets, it's being set up to carry things like GBU-12, paveway laser-guided bombs, various types of JDAMs, the GPS-guided bombs, and also CBU-105s. Those are cluster bombs designed to take out armored vehicles.
Standard stuff for ground attack. What about missiles?
Air-to-ground missiles potentially include the AGM-84 Harpoon, which is anti-ship, and the trusty AGM-65 Maverick.
Okay. Now, for air-to-air combat, I noticed something interesting there. They seem to be going a slightly different route than usual, maybe.
That's a sharp pickup, yes. While it will be able to use standard American missiles like the AIM-120 ARAM and the AIM-9X Sidewinder.
The usual loadout for many Western Air Forces.
Right. And ASRAAM integration is planned too. But it looks like the primary air-to-air weapons might actually be European, specifically the MBDA Meteor for long range.
The Meteor, that's got a serious reputation, often seen as having longer legs than AMRAAM.
It does. And for short range, the IRIS-T, which is a very agile infrared missile, MBDA has confirmed they're working closely with KAI to get the Meteor fully integrated.
That's a significant choice.
Yeah.
Shows they're looking for best in class, regardless of where it comes from.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. South Korea is also developing its own air-launched cruise missile. It's called the Sky Dragon program.
Sky Dragon. Heard whispers about that. Haven't they already tested prototypes from their old Phantoms?
They have. And DAPA, that's their defense acquisition agency, confirmed the main development phase started late 2023. They're aiming to finish it by 2028.
Any idea on the range?
Speculation is around 500 kilometers. This whole program really highlights South Korea's focus on having a credible, long-range precision strike capability. Think hitting hardened targets deep inside North Korea.
Bunker busting.
It might have that kind of capability, yeah. Potentially replacing their current KPD 350K cruise missiles, which are known for punching through serious concrete.
And this all ties into their bigger strategic picture, doesn't it? That three-axis plan.
Correctly. The KF-21, especially armed with something like the Sky Dragon, is a core part of that strategy against the North Korean nuclear threat.
Remind us what the three axes are.
It's basically preemptive strike, so hitting threats before they launch, missile defense, intercepting incoming missiles, and then an overwhelming response, a massive retaliatory strike hitting command centers, launch sites, key infrastructure.
And the KF-21's range and precision are key to making that work.
Critical, especially for striking targets without having to fly deep into heavily defended airspace.
Okay, so let's talk performance and positioning. It's often called a 4.5 generation fighter. What does that actually mean in practice? How is it different from, say, an F-35?
That's a really key point. The whole design philosophy seems to be about finding a balance. They want a significantly reduced radar signature, so stealthier than older jets, but also the ability to carry a lot of weapons externally.
Unlike the F-35 or F-22, which prioritize maximum stealth, often meaning weapons has to be carried internally.
Exactly. The KF-21 has 10 external hardpoints, 4 on the fuselage, 6 on the wings. That strongly suggests its radar cross-section, while reduced, is probably going to be more comparable to something like a Eurofighter Typhoon, another 4.5 gen jet, rather than a true low observable like the F-35.
But didn't they say during development they wanted to outperform the Typhoon and the French Rafale? Both very capable aircraft.
Yeah, that was the stated goal, yes. So positioning it as 4.5 gen is kind of strategic. It suggests, look, maybe it's not as stealthy as an F-35, but it can carry more weapons externally, and it's still way stealthier than an F-16.
So offering a different kind of capability mix.
Precisely, and that could be really useful in combined operations. You could have F-35s doing the deep penetration, F-16s providing agile air cover, and the KF-21 coming in with its advanced sensors and a heavy weapons load, playing to the strengths of each type.
Makes sense. How does it stack up against the F-16 specifically, since it's replacing some roles currently filled by F-16 variants?
Well, the targets set during development were pretty ambitious. Things like 50% greater combat range than the F-16,
right?
A much more advanced AESA radar,
Yeah.
better data links for sharing info, and a 30% longer service life.
That's significant improvement across the board. What's powering it?
It uses the General Electric F414 engine, same engine found in the Super Hornet and the newer Saab Gripens. It's a well-proven, reliable engine known for a good balance of power, fuel efficiency, and maintainability.
And performance figures. Speed, range.
Projections are around Mach 1.8 top speed. Combat radius up to 1,000 kilometers. That's a big jump from the F-16's roughly 500-kilometer range.
Where does that extra range come from? Fuel?
Mostly, yeah. It carries about double the internal fuel of an F-16, around 14,000 pounds versus 7,000. Interestingly, though, its maximum weapons load is the same as the F-16, about 7,700 kilograms.
Okay. And avionics, sensors.
It's got a modern electronic warfare suite, that advanced AESA radar we mentioned, an infrared search and track system, IRST, for passively detecting targets, and an electro-optical targeting system for guiding weapons. The two-seater version is expected to have an even more enhanced EW capability.
So, pretty packed with modern tech. How does the KF-21 fit into the wider world of advanced fighters? It's not being developed in a vacuum, is it?
Definitely not. It's joining a growing club of nations working on advanced, often fifth-generation designs. Regionally, you've got China's J-20 stealth fighter, which has been in service since 2017, though its true capabilities are still debated.
And they have another one, the FC-31.
Right, the Shenyang FC-31. Looks a lot like some U.S. designs. Most people expect that to become their main carrier fighter. Could be a very significant player down the line, especially at sea.
In Japan. They've been working on stealth tech, too.
They have. Mitsubishi built the X2 Shinshin demonstrator jet. That's feeding into their next-generation fighter program, the FX. And, you know, Mitsubishi has a serious aerospace pedigree from Zero and WWII to the modern F2 fighter. You can't discount what they might come up with.
Good point. What about elsewhere? India, Turkey, Russia?
India is working on the HAL AMCA Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. On paper, it looks quite similar to the KF-21 in goals, might even use the same F414 engines. Their challenge is integrating weapons from both Western and Russian sources, which is complex.
Turkey.
Turkey unveiled their TAI TF Comfighter mock-up in 2023. very ambitious plan to replace their X-16s eventually.
And Russia?
Russia has the Su-75 Checkmate, a lighter stealth design, but like their bigger Su-57 Felon, there's just not much solid public information about how development is actually going or what it can really do.
So lots of activity, but varying levels of maturity and transparency. Is there a common thread among all these new designs?
The big one, at least outwardly, is minimizing radar visibility. Stealth, or at least reduced observability, is clearly a major focus for pretty much everyone developing a new fighter these days.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the KF-21. What's the big picture takeaway here? Why should someone listening, maybe interested in defense tech or international relations, really care about this particular aircraft?
Well, first off, it's just a massive achievement for South Korea, a truly impressive native design that shows how far their aerospace industry has come.
A real milestone.
Definitely. But beyond that, it's also a powerful example for other countries, maybe like Australia. It shows that developing sophisticated military aircraft domestically is possible and maybe strategically vital. Australia even did it during WWII, I remember, built their own planes when they had to.
That's a fascinating point, especially now with supply chains seeming more fragile and the world getting more complicated.
Exactly. The current global situation really shines a light on the need for reliable, sustainable domestic production of critical defense gear, including planes and the weapons they carry. Relying solely on overseas suppliers could become a real problem down the road.
So the KF-21 isn't just a plane. It's a symbol of potential.
You could see it that way. It demonstrates the benefits national security, high-tech industry growth, skilled jobs, strategic independence. It's genuinely inspirational, showing what a focused national effort can achieve in this very demanding field.
So wrapping this up, the KF-21 Boramae marks South Korea stepping onto the world stage as a serious aerospace player. It's a capable jet, balancing performance and payload, built through determination. Its arrival changes things in Northeast Asia, for sure, but it also offers a potential blueprint for other nations wanting more control over their own defense capabilities.
Well said. And it leaves us with a pretty significant question to ponder, doesn't it? If South Korea could pull this off, what's really holding back other capable nations from aiming for similar self-reliance in aerospace? And, maybe more importantly, what are the long-term risks if they don't try, if they continue to depend heavily on others for these critical assets?
Some really vital points for you, our listener, to think about. Consider what this means for how you understand defense tech, global power dynamics. Maybe dig a bit deeper into that three-axis plan South Korea has, or the nitty-gritty differences between 4.5 and 5th-gen fighters. There's always more layers to peel back in this fascinating world.
Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the biggest shifts in aerospace, geopolitics, and defense innovation.